everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Game Junk. My name is Sean.
My name is Frank.
And over the next hour and a half to 2 hours, we're going to be talking video games. It's going to be something a little different for us, but I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Kind of.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, it better be, dude.
So
let's get it on.
On this week's episode, or this month's episode, I should say, we're going to be talking about the Xbox Live Arcade game Limbo. And we've also got a whole bunch of other stuff that we've been kind of playing individually that we're going to talk about. And better late than never, we're going to talk about some E3 stuff and just, in general, games we're looking forward to in the next few months to, pretty much
a couple of years maybe for some of mine.
Yeah?
You never know. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So first things first, I guess we should talk briefly about the name of the podcast.
It's been a point of contention as of late.
Yeah, we were really racking our brains trying to come up with something creative for this, and seems like pretty much everything is taken.
Yeah, any good idea, it's already a domain name. Some computer parts has the name. It doesn't matter. Everything is taken.
Yeah, so, but we did put it out to you guys, and we got some good suggestions. Although we went with Game Junk, we were thinking about going with our favorite submission, which was The Uncanny Valley.
Loved it.
Very cool name. And it's not taken. And that was submitted by Captain Ephraim. And he's the winner of our contest, and he gets a free download of Limbo, which is pretty sweet.
And we're very thankful for all the submissions.
And we really appreciate that. But I guess we should explain why we decided to go with Game Junk. And I think it's just because everyone's going to call it that anyway.
Yeah, everyone we ask, Game Junk? Game Junk this and Game Junk that.
It was just a given. So I don't know if we really had a choice in the end, but I'm okay with it.
I don't know if you are, though. I really
had my heart set on Kill Screen, but,
yeah,
Hey,
nothing's set in stone here.
If we come up with something better, maybe it'll change. But so I think the format is going to be kind of similar to Film Junk in that we're going to do sort of some news, some reviews, probably some mailbag, and
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. But I think, especially for this first episode, we're probably going to have just all over the place, a lot of discussion about different things that, were announced at E3. And I guess we should say the idea is probably to do this once a month.
Correct.
Because, it takes a lot longer to play through games,
And hopefully that allows us to get the audience more involved too with saying what we're going to be playing, maybe voting on games we should talk about, and then still having time for everyone to play it and get prepared adequately.
I think we're kind of looking at this maybe almost a little bit like the Movie Club podcast, but for games. So we're going to try and pick at least one major game to review every episode. And on top of that, we're going to try and pick one either sort of like a smaller arcade, Xbox Live Arcade type game, or maybe a retro game, which we would revisit. So that's kind of what we're looking at for the format of the show. What else? I guess we should, before we get to talking about E3 stuff, we should also just give a little bit of background on ourselves. And obviously, if you listen to Film Junk or any of our other podcasts, you kind of know you definitely know who I am. Probably know who Frank is.
Yeah, kind of.
But just so you guys know, we are both, we both work as video game programmers. But
one of us programs. Can't speak too much for the other one.
Ouch. That hurts. But so we're not actually going to be talking about what we do at our day job because,
don't ask. It's not coming out.
We can't. So that's not going to happen. You're not going to get any insider info on the show. But I do kind of think maybe we'll have sort of a different perspective on some things because of that. I don't know. I've listened to a bunch of video game podcasts, and read a lot of reviews, and it seems like everybody's always coming at it from like very much a consumer point of view. You know what I mean? Like, is this worth my $60 or whatever? And I don't know if we're going to be looking at it exactly like that.
We buy everything. We don't care.
Yeah.
We will buy anything and everything, no matter how much it is, whether we've played it, whether we're ever going to play it, we'll buy it. So value does not enter the equation here.
Well, maybe for you, but...
but look around here.
Yeah, well, I kind of... You play, I'll say for sure you play way more games than I do. So, but I'm kind of thinking you're going to be the guy who's played probably more of the major console releases and stuff, whereas I may come into this show with sort of more of the smaller, quirky iPhone games and things like that to talk about a bit.
For the gamer on the run.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But any thoughts on favorite game systems?
Yeah, I don't know.
Years?
I got into games probably when I was around 5 or 6. The first time I saw Nintendo, I was so stoked I had to have one, and it's been downhill ever since. Favorite systems and genres, I would say Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64 are my 2 favorite systems of all time. It's kind of like anything, like the stuff you played when you were like, or music you listened to, movies you watched when you were like 12 to 18, I guess, whatever you... That kind of sets the stage for the rest of your life.
It just defines
it never gets old, exactly. So that's what I was into then. But I pretty much bought anything. Like, we were talking 32X, Sega CD, except for the higher, like the more expensive things, like 3DO and Neo Jaguar. I didn't get into that so much, but can't say that was a bad idea.
Yeah. Well,
although if those systems came out today,
you would buy.
I would probably buy.
Well, I never got into any Sega stuff. I was always a Nintendo guy. But my first system was actually, that I would consider a gaming system would actually be the Commodore 64.
I did have a Commodore 64 as well,
and I would actually put that down as probably my favorite system.
What?
No, now let me tell you why. There's something about the scene with Commodore 64 games, because you had, commercial releases, big games would come out on it, but you also had this crazy like homebrew scene of weird games that you would kind of get, and you never know what you were going to get. You know what I mean? Like there's something about that was really appealing to me as a youngster.
I guess you're a little older than me too.
Probably.
I was a little out of my wheelhouse getting into homebrew. Yeah, when I was like 7.
I'm not saying I really made it. I did attempt to do a little bit of programming back in those days, but yeah, it was just, I don't know, something about that made a big impression on me, and that's kind of definitely where I first got into games.
What's the run command? Do you remember? It was like something...
load star, (8, 1).
That's the one. I couldn't remember.
Yeah. That was amazing back then. But my neighbors were the first ones to get a Nintendo in the neighborhood, and went over there, played Blades of Steel, heard the voices of the announcer.
Forget it.
It was game over. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. But always pretty much Nintendo all the way through, right up until I guess Xbox and PlayStation 2. Were my first non-Nintendo systems that I ever bought. So
no PS1 for you, eh?
I wasn't a PlayStation 1 guy, no.
I think I got that launch day, or close to it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
See, I actually to be honest, I kind of got out of games for a little while towards the end of the Super Nintendo cycle. Because when I had that system, pretty much all I ever did was play, like my brother bought all these sports games, so all we ever did was play sports games on there. And then I just kind of lost interest for a while. And then N64, GoldenEye got me right back in.
Yeah. You were in your kind of too cool for video games phase, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Beginning of high school.
That's probably
I didn't have that phase.
All right. So anyway, that's an intro for, us. And in the mailbag, we'll be talking a little bit about some of our favorite games of all time. But let's jump in right now to what would be our news segment, but it's pretty much going to be E3 discussion, I think. I know you've got a lot of things you wanted to touch on. And we were also going to count down our top 5 games.
I think we should start with that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. And then like my other stuff's kind of honorable mention and general topics aside from my top 5.
Okay. So I guess, well, why don't you start with your number 5 best in show at E3, even though we weren't at E3.
Not best in show. Not necessarily the best games. The ones I am looking forward to playing.
Okay, so not even necessarily what they showed at E3. Just...
Or, yeah, they probably did show everything I have at E3, but not necessarily the best looking games, like the most revolutionary, just the ones I can't wait to play.
Okay.
Okay? Number 5 for me, Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Okay, now this is this the MMO?
Massively multiplayer. Now, I am new to the MMO scene. I had never played one until about a few months ago when I started playing WoW.
And you're all over that.
I'm not all over it. I'm not. I don't get addicted to it quite like other people. Like I like the artwork and I like the interface and stuff like that. I find it interesting, but I don't have that need to keep playing and leveling up. Like that's not something that appeals to me.
Okay.
But looking at some videos of this, like the combat looks so much more interesting, and it's a universe that's, I guess, kind of close to my heart. Like I like Star Wars, so I think that would be the MMO that I would want to get in on the ground floor. And considering it's coming from BioWare, I had put a lot of faith in that and pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in this game too. But question, have you, I guess you haven't, but have you seen anything from Star Wars Galaxies?
No, I've stayed away from that. Because I remember thinking it looked amazing, and then the reviews were just shit. So
I signed up for, like, at some point they had like a free trial or something. So I signed up for that, and I remember spending one night just kind of walking around like Tatooine, and it was just like this deserted desert. And, like, it was so boring. I don't even remember what I was trying to do. But
guess what, buddy? That's what Tatooine is.
Well, I know. But, I mean, this was the problem with Star Wars Galaxies. It was just, you want to jump in, and you want to be a Jedi, and you want to kick ass, and you start out as, like, just some farmer guy. And it's just, like, this is boring.
I don't know. I should also preface, like, I've never been a big PC gamer.
Right.
Until recently. I've actually been starting to get into it. I don't know. I've always...
Yeah,
just hasn't done it for me, but
PC gamer
I'm starting to get into that a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm liking it a lot.
Okay. Well, my number 5, and this one, you know, I do actually have some qualms about it, but I gotta go with it. GoldenEye.
Oh, yeah.
This is the remake, I guess it is pretty much a remake on the Wii, which is coming out later this year.
No. Here's the thing with it. Like, they did a GoldenEye on Xbox, right? To kind of tie into the same thing. The same appeal of GoldenEye.
Did they actually do another one that was called GoldenEye?
Yeah. But, like, it seems like this one is trying to follow the blueprint of the original game. I don't know how accurate they're going to be with that or not, but...
Well, yeah, I guess... First of all, the one thing I found really weird is that Daniel Craig... is Bond in it. So it's like GoldenEye, but with Daniel Craig. Like
I don't... Whatever.
It's just weird. But now, my question to you is, how come GoldenEye was so great, so amazing, and every Bond game since then has just kind of gone...
Been garb?
I don't know. There's been a couple that got okay reviews. I kind of remember From Russia with Love being okay. Mostly because they had Sean Connery doing the voice and stuff. That was kind of interesting.
For me personally, I remember GoldenEye being there. I wasn't a PC gamer, right? And that was the realm of first-person shooters like Doom and Wolfenstein, and there had never been anything accessible or comparable to that really on consoles until this game that I can remember, or that people wanted to play.
Yeah, I definitely think for console gamers, this was the gateway FPS.
Yeah. And I just, I think that's what it was, more like an introduction to that style. And like, I'm curious, like I remember thinking now about the multiplayer in GoldenEye, like holding the right shift to free aim and stuff like that. Like, it's a completely different world. So I'm really...
Well, yeah, you couldn't even really aim because it didn't.
You have
even
to aim straight, right?
It didn't
Unless
have like the
stopped.
dual thumbstick. None of that.
So it's kind of weird. Like I'd be curious to pick it up again. I've been thinking about hooking up the old N64 and trying it. But another thing I remember loving about it was the Rumble Pack. The Rumble Pack was a brand new thing then.
Right.
And like when you had a little PP7 and you like it gave that little jolt.
Yeah,
it was pretty satisfying.
That was pretty cool. But I don't know, like, do you think it's because, like, Rare was the developer on that and they didn't do any of the ones since then? Because they did go on to do Perfect Dark, which was also great, but then they did Perfect Dark for the Xbox 360, which was just okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I was talking to a mutual friend from work, Andrew, about that game, and he made some great points about, like, just the way difficulty's built in that game was awesome. Like, it was actually... different paths, and each level was really like different depending on what difficulty level you did. Like the level expanded and different submissions were part of the difficulty level, right? Whereas you could just walk through it on easy. And
right,
I really had kind of lost track of that, but that's a really cool way to like expand difficulty and make, you know, playing at different difficulty levels, like motivating me to do that. And well, I thought that's a really cool thing that I don't think any of the subsequent Bond games had, even though I didn't play much of them. I don't know.
I think a lot of the missions in that original GoldenEye were really good. And you're right, there was a lot of varied level designs. Like I remember the snow levels being really cool and stuff like that. But I don't know, I guess the other thing, you know, getting back to the multiplayer, and something that I am a little worried about with this new one is, you know, the split screen local multiplayer was so good at the time. I mean, it just, to have like a bunch of friends over, you just throw it on and, you know, that would be the night. Like you just get hooked into that game. And the new one is, from what I know, will not have local multiplayer.
Yeah, I don't care about that. Like, I'd always rather have my own screen. I think if we had the option of playing the old 64 with different screens each, we would have taken it every time.
But the thing is, with the way the Wii is, like, there's not a lot of, you know, this isn't coming out for Xbox Live or anything, right? Like, the Wii online network is pretty lacking. So that's, what, you know, without that kind of fun multiplayer environment, I don't know if it's going to be as big of a hit. But purely for nostalgia's sake, I'll definitely pick this up.
I guess playing with your friends, or exclusively with like your friends back in the day, was one. Like, I think that always makes games more fun. Like, you don't have people who are cheap, and cheapness became part of the experience. You know, like screen watchers and fucking filthy pricks like that. And like that was part of the fun too. Like,
see, that's the thing though. I kind of like, I have had fun playing certain games on Xbox Live, but nowhere near as fun as just sitting with a bunch of friends.
Although I think when I like have a party of just my friends and we play an online game, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But
okay.
The perfect is when you get like a bunch of people together in one house and like
have multiple TVs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. But so as far as GoldenEye, I mean, the thing that does bug me about it, though, is it's classic Nintendo regurgitating stuff. As much as I love Nintendo, I hate the fact that that's all they do is just rely on past hits over and over again. But it works.
Well, I would say that too, except when I look at my top 5 list.
I know where it's going.
I'm part of the problem, not the solution.
All right, what's your number 4?
Castlevania Lords of the Shadows.
Okay.
Which is the new 3D Castlevania.
Yes.
I don't know, the presentation looks top notch. The combat, as people said, is kind of God of War clone-ish, but I'm hoping there's some more traditional Castlevania elements, like opening up certain levels and move. That remains to be seen, but I'm holding out hope for that. And now, originally, it was supposed to be like a heavy involvement from like Hideo Kojima and his studio, but they really aren't talking about that too much, and it seems like that influence has kind of waned a bit. So I don't know that was one of the reasons why I was originally really looking forward to it. Like, it was a Hideo Kojima Presents and all this stuff, and I thought it was going to be a driving force behind the game, but I still really want to play it. It just seems like that's kind of not as prevalent, so
well, yeah,
that'll be a big factor as to how well I think the game does for me personally.
Yeah, I haven't been following that too much. All I know is that I'm a big Castlevania fan, but there hasn't been a great next gen 3D Castlevania game. The only one that I've even played really at all was the PlayStation 2, the first PlayStation 2
Lament of
one.
Innocence, or
yeah, which was okay, but it had a lot of camera issues, and it just, I don't know, something about using a whip in 3D space just has never worked. But I'm really excited about the possibility of them, taking, this franchise to the next level, so to speak, and it's actually on my list as well.
Oh yeah, it's like the last, to me, the last classic franchise that hasn't been successfully brought to 3D, I think. That I can think of off the top of my head. There's nothing else that has yet to bridge that gap, or at least have one successful entry.
Yeah.
Some would argue Lament of Innocence, but I remember, I don't know if it's because I missed Symphony of the Night so much, but I don't know. I just couldn't get into it at all.
Yeah. Okay, well, my number 4 is the Scott Pilgrim PSN game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty psyched for this. And I mean, obviously I'm a fan of Scott Pilgrim, but this looks like a real old school brawler game. I mean, it's totally in the vein of like River City Ransom and Double Dragon. River City Ransom is definitely one of my favorite NES games of all time. And I just think if they kind of do that style gameplay with a sense of humor based on the comics. And I mean, apparently it also has it looks like it has some sort of almost Guitar Hero-ish gameplay parts.
Yeah, so
I don't know, like that could suck, but it seems to fit because, you've got the music and you've got the fighting. I'm pretty psyched. And plus, they went all out with the look of the retro look and the retro music. And I've been really on an 8-bit kind of kick over the last few months. So
I can definitely appreciate the fact that they seem to mimic the comics more than the movie itself. And I think that was a cool direction to take this game. And I have played it a bit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I think it was on the Dev Network, so checked it out. I was good. I didn't play it much, but because I was kind of saving it for when it actually comes out. But seems like it holds up. Like the basic mechanics didn't seem flawed too much. And
is it repetitive though? That's the problem with these brawler games. I don't want it to get too repetitive.
In the minute or so I played, no. So
all right, that's good news.
Remains to be seen.
Okay.
All right, number 3.
Go for it.
This one almost pushed higher. Almost. Kirby's Epic Yarn for Nintendo Wii.
Yeah.
I love 2D platformers, I think, more than any type of game in the world. And every video I've seen seems to be really creative and use, like, the art style is insane, and it uses it contextually in the world, and I don't know, I'm super excited. It just, to me, it might seem a little slow. That's the only thing I'm worried about is the pacing of Kirby games has always kind of been kept me away from them. Like, it's not very fast paced, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to this game as well. This wasn't on my list, but yeah, the art style, like that kind of like cutout yarn kind of string. I don't know
everything's made of strings pretty much.
Yeah, however they managed to kind of create. I mean, it seems maybe a little influenced by Little Big Planet, but it's still pretty unique. But the thing is, yeah, you're right about the Kirby games, because the only Kirby game I've actually played was the very first one for the original Game Boy. And I remember getting that and being really excited about it because, it was a new platformer from Nintendo, and it was way too easy. Like, I got through the game in probably, like, I don't know, a couple days, and I just remember being able to, how he can, like, suck in air and then fly? I just did that over everything, and I was like, "What?" Like, I don't know. Maybe it was my own fault for that, playing it that way. But
that's never your fault.
Yeah, But the option was there, so
they gave you the option.
Exactly.
You took it.
But I haven't.
You're a pussy, but.
But I haven't delved into too many of the other Kirby games. But I think. I don't know if you were going to bring this up, but definitely 2D platformers are coming back in a big way.
Everything 2D. Back to 2D.
Which is
fine with me. I got no problems with that.
All right. My number 3 was your number 4.
Oh, yeah.
Castlevania Lords of Shadow.
Is it so it's Lords of Shadow or Lords of Shadows?
I think it's Lords of Shadow, but
I put S's on both, and I can't remember which one it was.
It's hard to keep all those Castlevania game names at this point. Like it's always something of something, and it's like you can never remember.
I still have to go back and play.
Harmony of Dissonance.
Portrait of Ruin.
Araya of Sorrow.
Nice. I think we got them. We got them all.
There's lots more.
What's the one next week? What comes out? What's that one called? Something of Despair.
I forget.
Can't wait.
Somebody should come up with like a little web game where you can just automatically generate.
It's like Mad Libs and Castlevania names.
All right, what do you got? Number
2?
2, yeah.
This is almost number 1. It's pretty close. Rock Band 3 for me. And I should have made it number 1.
It's my number 2 as well.
Because I don't think I've ever been more excited for... I'm still full on music games. I still play them all the time. When I have people over, we still always play them. I never get sick of them, ever.
That's where we're different, because I've gotten a little cooled off on these. And I really didn't think that Rock Band 3 was going to... I probably would have picked it up, but I was kind of thinking, I don't know if I'm that interested anymore. And they've come up with enough cool new stuff that I'm pretty psyched for it. Like the keyboards, the real guitar... just like...
Yeah, if they wouldn't have added anything new, it wouldn't have even been close to my top 5. But, first, I would love to learn how to play music better. I've never had any musical training at all. And it just seems like it's going to be the perfect introduction for someone like me that would love to learn this stuff and is familiar with the series. And I cannot wait to just take time and...
Well, I'm curious to see if it kind of becomes... There was always this concern with the rock... Even when the first Rock Band came out, people were like, oh, it's going to be a niche game. Well, they kind of said that about the first Guitar Hero, too. But they said, Rock Band, because it's, you had to buy, the whole band. You had the drums and the guitars and the mics. And they were like, it costs too much. This is only going to be for the hardcore people. And it was still huge. But now that same question is being asked again. Is this going to be too hardcore? Is it, because it's real guitar, is that going to be too hard for some people? But I guess you have the option, right? Yeah,
you always got the option. And the other great thing is, even if you wait a little bit, the prices of things like these things drop immediately.
Yeah.
I just got Beatles Rock Band, the whole set, limited edition, for 40 bone.
Don't tell Reed Farrington.
Yeah, ridiculous. You can get it's. So there's a time when you can get into them. It might not be immediately, but I don't know. And the way they've set it up, it's pretty. You can build upon past instruments, except for the guitar and keyboard. So I think they've done a good job of straddling the line of old people who still have the old instruments can still play this game. But if you're ready for the next step and got the coin,
kick it up a notch.
Yeah. I'm prepared.
All right. Well, that was my number 2 as well. Let's go right to number 1.
Do we have this? Oh, no, we don't have the same thing. All right. My number 1 is Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Such a Nintendo fanboy.
I'm not, though. But, Donkey Kong Country is amazing. That was the game I had to have a Super Nintendo. Up until then, I was pure Genesis. Well, I saw Donkey Kong Country and I played it. I'm like, I have to have one of these things. I don't remember if I traded stuff in or what, but I could play that game forever.
Well, it is arguably the game that saved Super Nintendo, because I'm pretty sure they were kind of behind Sega Genesis at one point. And that was the game they put out, and it was like the 3D pre-rendered graphics was just like amazing at the time.
Have you seen the video with the guy we used to work with, Henry, when he was like on a promotional video for Nintendo? No. And he's talking when he was a tester for Donkey Kong Country.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
And he's like, "This is the game you're gonna have to have. You're gonna have to tell your friends. Everyone's gonna want it with the 3D rendered graphics and all that. You're gonna have to have it." And old Henry was right.
He was right.
He hit it right on the head.
Yeah,
that's the game. We should try to get a link up for that if I can find it. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube.
I'm sure he'd appreciate it. All right. Well, my number one best at E3 or game
Wait up. So I didn't get to talk about Donkey Kong Country Returns. I just talked about the old Donkey Kong.
Oh.
So
well, you didn't really talk about the old one either because you replayed that whole game.
I did. I was going to talk about it a bit more on what we played, but
okay.
Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Yeah, actually,
I'm still not 100%.
What's new about this? Is there anything?
I'm not 100% sold on it yet. Like when I saw the boss fight, I saw someone playing a boss fight, and it didn't seem to have quite the same. I don't know. It seemed a little loose. Like there's one thing about Donkey Kong Country, undeniable. It's tight. Like that shit's as tight as it gets, and I don't see that in this game. So I'm hoping it's still my number one, but tightness will be a factor.
So
unequivocally,
even a loose Donkey Kong Country is still number one on your list.
Now talking about loose and tight. Here's an example. First 3 Crash Bandicoots, right?
Okay.
Love them. Like. It is 1-to-1 controller map. Like it is tight. What you do with then they started releasing the new ones on P. Like I think they went to Traveler's Tales or something like that, and everything had like this like you're always going a little further than you wanted to. Like it was disgusting. Just ruined it for me. But I can go back and play Crash Bandicoot 1. You know what? I didn't think about it enough for my top 5 all time, to be honest. I love Crash Bandicoot 1.
So it could have cracked your top 5.
But yeah, like that, and even like just Super Mario, same thing, right? Like,
yeah.
And Mario Galaxy nowadays, but.
It's what Nintendo does best.
I know, and it's insane. But this is going to a studio that I love, Retro Studios, so I have ultimate faith in them, and. My favorite thing, you know what, I'll just talk about the old Donkey Kong Country now too. Was like, the first time you see the level where it's the sunset, do you remember?
No.
No?
I don't know how much I've actually played.
Oh, like you're playing, it's all nice out and stuff, and like the weather would change, and like there was this one level with a sunset, and it was heavenly. Like I remember seeing that, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And it's changing through the level.
Okay.
And it's, that's a moment.
Gave you
that's a video game moment I shan't forget. And they've kind of gone back to that style a bit. Like there's a few like where it's just the silhouette of Donkey Kong, and I'm hoping for more stuff like that, like ultra stylized DK, and I can't wait personally.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested.
It's your number one, right?
It's not my number one.
Yeah.
My number one, best in E3 or thing I'm most looking forward to right now is Portal 2.
A lot of people are.
Yeah, you know, it's weird because I wasn't really thinking too much about it. Like, and I actually finished Portal like way later than everyone else. Like, I just finished it last year, and it's interesting because it's such a short game, but it was such a cool idea, right? And that's all it was. It just took one interesting idea and they built on it. But now they've had the benefit of doing one game, and they've had a couple years to work on this thing. And that trailer that they showed at E3, where it's just like shit's going crazy, you know, like the environments are going all crazy around you and stuff.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just blew me away. So I don't really know too much about it other than that, but I just know if those guys that came up with the creative puzzles they did in the first one can now take that a step further, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. It looks awesome. I watched a few gameplay videos over the last couple of days, and I don't know. I think I need to. I really like the basic principle behind the first Portal. Like the level, like each level was its own kind of escape thing, And I'm really interested to see how they, it seems like it's more open environments and stuff, right? Like how they take that to this open kind of idea. So that's something I think I need to play or before I can say for sure I'm looking forward to it. But or like it wouldn't make my top 5, but I'll play it for sure.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about a few other things that were announced at E3 or that are actually coming out actually kind of soon. Well, first of all, let me ask you this. Who do you think, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, who's the best at E3?
No doubt. Nintendo. And I haven't said that at all the past 3 or 4 years. They've been like the past, like the year before was one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like it was horrid. So for them to come back this year was a big deal for me. So
yeah, and it's funny because I don't know, like they always I always kind of roll my eyes when they're announcing these these remakes of other games and just the next in the series of Mario or this or that, and like it's so expected. But I think this year they had the 3DS, which is interesting. I mean, I'm not 100% sold on it, but that's at least something different. And compared to what Microsoft and Sony had, which was just Wii wannabes, no question, Nintendo, I agree with you there, actually. Nintendo, I think, had the strongest, most interesting stuff to show. But let's talk briefly about the Microsoft Kinect and PlayStation Move.
Yeah, I'm not quite sold on these things.
Yeah, neither am I.
I might pick them up though. But,
as the day draws closer, I'm thinking, maybe I will. But
you might get me.
I don't know.
I've seen watch videos of the Children of Eden or whatever. That's supposed to be like the best Kinect game. I don't know if you've seen anything for that. It's like a rhythm game / and I'm just not getting it watching the videos. So that's something I'm definitely eager to try and experience for myself. I'm looking forward to Move more than Kinect personally.
See, I'm the opposite because I feel like, to me, Move just looks like the Wii. It doesn't look any different. Maybe it's a little more precise, but it's the same thing. Whereas Kinect is a little different. But at the same time, I don't know. I can't see myself, like, the big problem with the Wii has always been precision. And I don't see how, like, Kinect is just going to be even more imprecise. You know what I mean? Like, there's no feedback whatsoever. Like, how are you going to be able to tell what you're doing?
I know.
That's an issue. But I am looking forward to the Michael Jackson game. But what do you think about the price point? A lot of people are complaining about Kinect being $150. You think that's too much?
Is that how much it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, this could be a little pricey.
It comes with Kinect Adventures, but the thing is, Microsoft is saying, hey, you buy this for $150 and you can play with, like, however many people you want. Whereas Move, you got to buy multiple controllers. So that's a good point.
They're bundling it with the new Slim Xbox as well, right?
Right, yeah.
So I might buy one of those. Just buy the whole package.
Yeah.
It looks pretty sweet.
I mean, I definitely want to try it. I just don't. I mean, it comes back to the Wii. Like, I don't really play the Wii that much. I know you've been kind of playing a lot of Wii games.
Another thing, like, I'm a phase gamer, right? Like, I'll be like, I want to play Wii. And I'll play Wii for 2 weeks straight, and that's it. And I'll ignore everything else, and I'll want to play all old Nintendo games. And then I'll want to play PS3 for 2 weeks. Like, I don't mix and match. I'm usually, like, into one system all the time. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm buying games for that system that I'm never going to play. And I'm like, ooh, I wanted to try that, and then play for 2 hours, and that's it. But I still think the Wii has a lot to offer. I think it would be a million times better if it was HD. And, like, it would be so good if it was HD.
They'll probably release a new one that's HD eventually.
I'd buy it. And I'd buy every game re-released in HD. Especially,
that's
like,
totally Nintendo's MO.
Exactly. And you know what? It's sad, but I still love those games. Like, I am motivated to play them again. Like, I want to replay Twilight Princess. I want to replay a ton of Wii games, where I can't say the same for a lot of Xbox games the replay value, it really isn't there for me.
Well, that is also the big thing, that the Wii, the one major thing, as kind of goofy as some of the games are out there for it, the one major thing they have going for it is Nintendo is going to do awesome games for it, because their first party games are way better than any other first party games that Microsoft or Sony can pull off. So, I mean, when I think about the Kinect or the Move, I'm thinking, well, what games are going to sell me on this? And who's going to make a game that's going to sell me on this? And I don't really think anyone is. Like, there's probably going to be some third-party games where maybe they'll have an add-on for it, like Heavy Rain is apparently going to have an upgrade for the PlayStation Move. Could be interesting, but that's not really going to sell me on it.
What about Resident Evil 5 Move update?
See, I haven't played the Resident Evil 4 re-release for the Wii.
I recently played through that again.
And yeah, awesome. Everybody keeps telling me it's really good, and I mean, love Resident Evil 4, but I don't know, like, if it was a new Resident Evil game, and that was the only way you could play it, which is what the Wii usually has, like if you want to play the new, well, they did have the new Zelda on GameCube, I guess, but I mean, that's what it would take to sell me on these things. So,
yeah.
All right, anything else that... You got a lot of other E3 stuff?
Yeah, man. So back on the 3DS.
Yep.
One thing that, I was super excited for, it almost cracked my top 5, was Star Fox 64 3DS.
Yet another Nintendo
that game
regurgitation.
Is amazing. I know. I'm going to sound like such a Nintendo fanboy, but I'm really not, straight up.
No, I know you're not. You're just in a phase right now.
Well, no. But
well, what about Kid Icarus though?
I thought it looked cool. The gameplay is still a little lost on me. So I can't say much about it.
I went back and
it looks cool.
See, I went back and played the original Kid Icarus a little bit a couple weeks ago, and I don't know, wasn't that?
Yeah.
It's not that amazing. I mean, it bears some similarity to Metroid, and I know it was designed by the same guy, right? I think, pretty sure. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird because there were so many rumors for the last few years that they were going to do a Kid Icarus game, and it kind of seemed like, really, is that? I don't know. Like when Metroid Prime was announced for GameCube, that was a big deal because they hadn't done a new Metroid game in a while. And that was like a system seller like that. I remember hearing that game was going to come out, and that was reason enough for me to buy GameCube like when it was released. Yeah. But I don't know if Kid Icarus is a system seller. I mean, I'm curious, but it just seems like if that's the flagship title, it's kind of weak.
Yeah, I know. The tech to me is like really interesting. I need to see this with my own eyes.
Seems to be the general consensus.
But I really want to see it with my own eyes.
Yeah. But I mean, everybody talking about it. I mean, people who played it at E3 sound like they were impressed. Yeah. But anybody who hasn't actually seen it in person is kind of like, I don't know.
I haven't heard anyone say I haven't read anything or heard anything of people who've actually played it and said it didn't impress me. Like everyone, and video game people can be pretty. Yeah, negative too. Like they tend to point out the negative in things a lot rather than what's great about it. So I thought the fact that I've heard very little negative things about it, and it seems to have won a lot of Best in Shows pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the other thing, at the risk of sounding like a Nintendo fanboy, I mean, Nintendo usually knows what they're doing. Even when the DS was announced and people were like, "What is this?" Like it just seemed like a joke. And it turned out to be a pretty kick-ass system, I gotta say. They had some pretty awesome games for it, and it was good. So, I don't know. But it does kind of reek a little bit of the 3D kind of gimmick that's just kind of going around right now. So,
yeah, I'd say the Wii, even though there's a lot of games I like for it, has been the most disappointing Nintendo system for me. It just seems like there's a lot of great games, but they're so far behind the competition in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
And it's kind of disappointing that it sold so well because, to me anyway, it might have given the kick in the pants to, obviously get high def and some online components. And
yeah.
reward systems and stuff like that. So, but at the same time, if the games are good, I don't really care, but I still think that it could have been a way better system.
Yeah, and like it sucks that, I mean, really the best games are just the ones that Nintendo has made.
Well, most people I know don't even play their Wii anymore.
No.
Like they're like, everyone says, "Oh, it's collecting dust," or whatever, which is kind of sad, but
it is a little sad.
Shed a tear.
So let's talk about Epic Mickey.
Yeah, I got that on my list.
I know you're a little excited about this.
I am.
Now, is this a Wii exclusive? Or is this...
Yes.
It is?
Yep.
Okay, because, I watched some of the videos for this, and it's interesting that Warren Spector, is that his name? He's the one doing this when there's another Deus Ex game coming out, and he's not involved, but this does look kind of interesting.
Yeah, I love the concept. I love, like, when I first saw Kingdom Hearts, I was, like, super jacked for it. Like, recreating the Disney universe in a video game is something that has not really been done too successfully. So this one looks like it's on the right track to do it. And, like, I don't know if you've seen any of the 2D levels, like the Steamboat Willie level and stuff like that are kind of like throwbacks to old cartoons.
Oh, yeah?
It's like there's 2D levels that are...
That's cool.
That really look awesome. So...
the only thing that struck me about it a little bit is that it kind of reminded me a bit of Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which...
as long as there's no blue coins, we'll be good.
Yeah, Super Mario Sunshine didn't go over too well. That's like the one Mario game that kind of missed the mark, I think.
Yeah.
But...
it would have been perfect for the Wii, too. With like the water and aiming the water and stuff. It could have been just a little longer. It could have had some potential. Yeah. Maybe they'll re-release it on the Wii.
Oh, they will.
With some new play control.
3DS. It'll be on 3DS.
And a couple other things I had here was the Zelda Skyward Sword demo that Miyamoto did was pretty disappointing. Like, they all say it was interference and stuff, and I hope that's true, but it did not look very good when I was...
I'm a huge Zelda fan. I don't even really have that much interest in this game right now because I have not played. I barely played anything or any of Twilight Princess.
You should check it out.
I tried to play it, and I don't know. I just kind of lost interest. I got frustrated with it at first, and I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling I would probably dig it, but I've even been trying to play the first. What was the first Zelda game on the DS? Phantom Hourglass.
On the DS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But trying to play that one lately, and I'm getting frustrated with that one. So
it's just that one temple for me, and that's the biggest complaint. Like, you keep going back to the same temple and going further down it kind of thing, and that can get kind of annoying, especially when you put it down for a while.
Yeah.
And you kind of forget where the shortcuts are, and I kind of have to revisit that whole temple again, which can be pretty annoying.
Yeah, that's kind of what's happening to me, I think. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I'll probably pick it up because it's a Zelda game.
So, back on the return to 2D.
Yep.
The couple of other games that are getting a lot of notice are Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Did you see the demo for that they did on GameSpot?
I don't know if I saw that one.
Oh, okay.
I think I saw the trailer. Was there a trailer for it?
I don't know. I just saw like them play for like 10 minutes or so.
Okay. Well, I saw basically some of the gameplay and
it looks pretty good. They have like these in-game moments that are like breaking bones and it zooms in and stuff like that. And
right.
While that stuff kind of looks good in demos and stuff, it might be the kind of thing that gets a little annoying while you're playing. So
right. But they're definitely kind of copying the Street Fighter 4 kind of format, like just going back to basics. And surprisingly, I never even really got into Street Fighter 4 when it came out. But this is something I could see myself, like, I'm not a big fighting game guy to begin with, but this is something I could see myself being interested in. So
I always liked fighting games. I just find compared to other people, I'm fucking shit at them.
Yeah, like, that's definitely the big thing.
Some people at work are just ridiculous. I'm like, what's the point? I'm never going to be that good.
Yeah.
So, but I still think they're fun. And again, another game that has really caught my eye is Marvel vs. Capcom 3,
yes,
which looks amazing.
Yeah, another one that I could see myself actually getting into. But
yeah, I can't wait. And NBA Jam, which I can't wait for as well.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that this is on the Wii, because this is a game I'd love to play on Xbox Live.
They announced it.
Oh, really?
Or like it slipped out through like some ESRB stuff this week that it is also coming to... I don't know if there's a delay, but...
Yeah, well, I'll definitely wait on that then. But yeah, I love NBA Jam. That's like one of my favorite sports games of all time, for sure.
I only had one more thing to talk about from E3.
All right.
And that was like the Sony press conference.
Yep.
Like it was a lot of sequels and
Little
talking about
3D
and the motion stuff, right? But at the end, they saved it for Twisted Metal.
Yes.
And which I thought was kind of interesting and kind of like lackluster. I don't know. It was just kind of seemed like Twisted Metal all over again. But the one thing I remember thinking was really cool is it seemed like they had some really inventive multiplayer modes, like building the statue of the character that you were representing or whose team you're on. Like, I didn't see that. They talked about the multiplayer modes and they seemed really interesting. And like, I don't know if you played Calling All Cars on the PSN.
No, but that's David
Javit, Eat Sleep Play or whatever. And like it was pretty cool. It was pretty fun. So while it didn't blow me away, I think multiplayer could be really good for that, and I'm holding out some hope for that as well.
Yeah, I'm interested. I mean, I didn't have a PlayStation, but I did play Twisted Metal a bunch at a friend's house, and so I'm kind of familiar with at least the original Twisted Metal. And it is interesting that he's become a big name because of the God of War series, but now he's kind of coming back to Twisted Metal. And it was always kind of like the darker cousin of Super Mario Kart, I guess, in a way. But yeah, I think it is one of the few sort of Sony exclusive titles that I'm curious about. I don't really have too much else. What did you think about the return of Splatterhouse? Any thoughts on that?
I didn't see much for it. I'm kind of excited, but...
Yeah, I just remember that game was like all controversial when it first came out. I
remember my buddy's birthday party, somebody brought it out and the abortions fell from the ceiling and everyone lost their fucking minds. Like, those abortions?
It's just funny what passed for edgy back then.
Oh, man. I haven't seen too many abortions lately, bud.
I guess that is still kind of edgy.
Gotta bring it back. Yeah. I don't think abortions lost their edge ever.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would actually even buy this game, but it's just interesting that they're resurrecting that franchise. A couple other things I want to mention. Did you see anything about XCOM?
Yeah, very little. It was just the trailer, right?
Yeah.
But it's apparently a first-person shooter.
Yes.
No, I haven't played the original. I've been thinking of buying it, like through Steam. But there's all these. People were saying like you need to disable direct draw, or jump through some hoops to get it to play on most computers. But
I'm not sure about that. But I kind of am familiar with the original. Like it's kind of like a strategy game. So I know some people are kind of pissed that they're changing to a first-person shooter.
That. Yeah.
It's kind of like Fallout 3, basically, same thing, right? Like they took sort of an old school kind of RPG game and then
I think Fallout was pretty good at keeping the RPG elements, like the VAT system and stuff.
I think people were in the end pleased with it, but people were not happy initially because it looked like an FPS.
Yeah, right? And it remains to be seen if it is strictly a shooter or they put some strategy elements into it, which could be interesting.
Yeah, but the one thing I will say is like XCOM looks cool because it's set in the 50s and it's got that kind of like 50s sci-fi Roswell kind of thing. Kind of dig that. I liked the Destroy All Humans games. They weren't great games, but I liked that kind of sensibility. I also wanted to mention Homefront. Have you seen anything about this game?
No, I haven't.
Again, not a big shooter guy. Sounds like I'm not a big anything guy, but this basically it's like Red Dawn, the video game. Like the idea is the U.S. is being invaded by North Korea, and you're trying to defend like shopping malls and stuff. Sounds pretty fun to me.
Sounds like you've got some racial hostilities built up in you, buddy. Doesn't sound like fun to me at all.
What about Dead Rising 2?
I'll check it out. I'm not like gaga for it or anything.
I love the idea of the first game, but that save system drove me nuts.
Oh, brutal.
Couldn't handle it. So I don't know if they've changed it at all. I'm hoping they've made improvements there.
We really haven't mentioned any. There was one thing that we haven't mentioned that is Metal Gear Rising, which still pretty obscure, but it looked amazing. Like the tech and stuff looks insane.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to that. And just general we haven't really talked about Xbox exclusive stuff, but
Gears of War 3.
It was mostly sequels, right? And I don't know. I like I love Fable, I love Gears. What were the other sequels they talked? I can't remember. That was pretty much it. But
Halo Reach.
Yeah, Halo Reach. I'm definitely looking forward to all three of those. It's just like didn't leave an imprint on me something new.
That's the thing, though. We're kind of at that point where we're kind of getting towards the end of the product cycle for all these systems. So you are just getting sequels, nothing new and exciting. Which is why I think they're going to like the Kinect and the Move and stuff, because it's almost like they're selling a new system to you, but not really. It's just an add-on for the existing consoles.
But it is awesome that just how long console life cycles have extended.
Yeah.
In the past, we probably would have been seeing announcements for new systems from every company this year.
Well, what do you think? When do you think we'll see that? Next year?
I don't think so.
No?
I think it might be another year or so off. I really think they're trying to wait till a point where it's strictly digital distribution, or as close as they can get to that.
Yeah.
And so they can avoid piracy and stuff like that. So
yeah, I could see that.
That seems to be why a lot of people are in, like, I think that's the biggest driving for like the cloud and the on live systems and stuff like that, is just killing piracy as much as they can.
Yeah,
which like I have a PSP Go and I really like the digital distribution and I'm all for it. I seem to be becoming less attached to like cases and, well, I guess with PlayStation in particular, because they like let you download it to multiple systems, and I feel less like if I lose this or if it breaks, I've lost what I could have, right? Like I can still use it multiple times. So
right.
I think that's key to it.
I think most people are taking that into consideration now too. Like, I mean, if you download games on your iPod or whatever, like you can move them to other iPods, or there's a few different, you have like a limited number that you can move them to. So it's definitely something people are considering. But yeah, I mean, I think all that stuff is almost pretty much taking over. I mean, you've got Steam, you've got Xbox Live, you've got PSN, WiiWare, and there's a lot of great games coming out for all those things, which we'll be talking about one in a minute.
Oh, yeah. Is it time?
I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to bring up for E3 or just news in general?
No, I think I'm spent.
All right. Yeah, I'm pretty much
Fuck
spent
E3.
as well. Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's move on and let's get into a review of Limbo. Now, this is a game that just came out last week, I guess. For last week or the week before, for Xbox Live Arcade, developed by Playdead, I believe is the studio.
Yeah, in Calgary, I believe. Is that right?
I think so. You can double check, but
I don't think they have a website, dude.
No?
I was looking, I couldn't find shit.
All right, well, yeah, they don't seem to have one. Anyway, so let's. Well, I'll throw it over to you first. Why don't you set up a little bit of what this game is and what your initial thoughts were?
Yeah, so you're kind of thrown into this world without a lot of information. It's a highly stylized black and white world. Just pick it up and kind of figure out the controls for yourself, which are pretty basic.
Yep. A
to jump, B to do actions. And it's basically a series of puzzles. Like every level is just puzzle after puzzle after puzzle that you're trying to get through. Really don't know why you're trying to get through it. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but I was doing some research. Apparently, if you read like the notes about the game, like you're trying to find your sister.
Right.
Did you know that going into it? Like
I did, yeah. But I mean, the story is very vague, and I think that's one of the things that's kind of interesting about it. Yeah. So like, it didn't bother me that I didn't know what was going on. Like the puzzles are enough to drive me through the game, and I enjoyed it a lot. The ending, I was a little unsatisfied with. I thought it was kind of interesting, but I don't know. Just, I didn't care that it ended abruptly, but the meaning was a little lost on me, I guess. Like, some people, I've been reading reviews, are like talking about it like it's a French New Wave movie, talking about like existence and life. I'm like, give me a break. Like, but that is kind of what's cool about this game. I mean, it is, and I mean, this is why I'm kind of really digging Xbox Live Arcade and like the iTunes App Store. I mean, you've got all these kind of like quirky games that are kind of taking a chance and they're doing something different. And this, to me, this is like the art house film equivalent of a video game. Like, it's very much. I totally agree with that. And just like for style and new ideas and stuff, I think it's amazing. But at no point playing this game was I thinking about life, and I was thinking about the puzzles and what was going on. Like, they don't push that message. Like, if people who are talking about that are, I think, reading a little too much into that stuff. Like, well, yeah, and I mean, like you said, you're not really sure where you are, what's going on. All you know is the game's called Limbo, which kind of seems to indicate that, maybe you died and you're in limbo. I mean, that's kind of, what you're led to believe. And certainly, as you're going through these puzzles, you can die in a variety of pretty grisly ways. Yeah. So, like death seems to be a pretty important theme in this game in some way. They're calling the play mechanic in it like trial and death or something like that. Like, pretty much. And that was, I know it's intent. I know this is part of the design, but one thing that kind of bothered me is that there's tons of situations where you're never going to have the opportunity to solve on your first try. Yes. Right? Like, it's designed to make you die once, at least. You're basically walking along, you beat one puzzle and you're walking, and okay, at some point, something's going to jump out and kill me, and then I'm going to have to redo it and figure out, okay, where do I go from here? So I don't care that much about that, but that was kind of disappointing that, like, you couldn't come into a situation and, like, figure it out for yourself the first time without failing. Like, well, I mean, I think there were at the beginning there was a few with like some of the traps and stuff, but later in the game there's a couple cases where it's like, but it is good at like the checkpoint system is very reasonable, and I never felt I was redoing stuff for no reason. Yeah, definitely that made me happy because I hate bad save point systems. Drives me nuts. But yeah, definitely this is a puzzle platformer, which is, not, you don't see a ton of games like this nowadays, especially ones with like harder puzzles. I find a lot of people shy away, especially the big mainstream games, shy away from any sort of puzzle that's not just, pick this thing up and put it here or something. Like, so this one really makes you think. Like, there's some pretty tricky puzzles I found. I don't know if... Yeah, I was pretty disappointed. I had to consult a guide once. Yeah. Well, and you didn't. I was fucking pissed. I beat you. You didn't look at the guide. You son of a bitch. But there's definitely, like, I can think of 3 or 4 puzzles where I was probably sitting there for at least half an hour going over and over trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing here? And like you said, they don't explain anything. Like, there's no on-screen text saying, there's no tutorial. Which I like. And yeah, and again, to get back to what I was saying at the very beginning of the show, Commodore 64 games, that was one thing that was really cool that I remember as a kid, is you'd always have these games that you copied from a friend or something. You'd never have the instruction book. And even if you were renting a Nintendo game, you never read the instruction book. You just threw them on and you tried to figure it out as you went. And that was part of the fun. So I kind of like that about this game for sure. There was one night, I never played Marble Madness much as a kid. Okay. And there was one night where there was a bunch of us hanging out, and
we were all playing Marble Madness, and one of our friends came in and said, he made some ridiculous claim, like, I will give anyone who beats this by the end of the day, like $100 or $200. And we came, like, we were getting close, and then, like, later, like 2 weeks later, we realized you could make the ball go faster by pressing A. We didn't know that at all. Like, we were just moving it around. We had no concept that you could.
Yeah,
and it was like, we could have got it.
That's classic.
And it's like,
I can remember playing California games many, many times with my brother, and like, we just every day it would be like we'd play and we'd figure out something new that we were like, oh, you can do that. Like, I remember playing the surfing in California games and not knowing you could actually jump off and land a jump.
Yeah.
And then it's like eventually you figure out, oh, you can. And it's like just crazy how that used to be the experience of gaming back in the day.
Figuring out how to play.
Yeah.
And now if like we complain if there's not 40 tutorials and explaining every mechanic in some intro sequence in a game.
Yeah, but that was one of the things I liked about this game for sure. And
it felt a lot like Ico to me. I don't know if you played Ico at all, but just like,
I haven't played it.
Kind of throwing you in a world and puzzles, and it had a very similar feel, which is awesome.
Well, I guess it seems like some people have been comparing it to Braid. I haven't really played Braid, but the look
similar.
of it seems similar. At least not the black and white kind of stylized look, but the character and the movement of the character and sort of just the 2D platformer element. But yeah, I don't know. I guess Braid is certainly another Xbox Live Arcade game that's been, praised critically.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And this one seems to be getting praised across the board as well. A question I would put to you, do you think, take away the kind of the cool art style?
Yeah, just make it look like
If it just looked like
plain
Mario Brothers with these puzzles, would it be as critically acclaimed as it is? And is that even fair to say? I don't know. Because
I like where your head's at. I think the scores would be definitely be lower across the board.
It's the visual style is so unique and interesting, and I don't know, maybe it might turn some people off because it is basically black and white, which is, you don't see too many black and white games. But, I think that's such an important component of the game that you take that away and it's
but at the same time,
platformer.
it's hard to take art or like visual art out of a game. Like, if it wasn't black and white, I'm sure they would not try to make something horribly bad. Like, just doing anything, I think, would look decent enough that the game would still be awesome, like with the puzzles.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's strict. Like, for me, it wasn't strictly visual style. Like, there's been lots of games with tons. I can't think of any at the top of my head, but with a lot of style that have been shit. So.
Yeah, and it's definitely like the gameplay is solid. But I just, there were points where I was kind of thinking to myself, like, I'm just playing a dressed up puzzle platformer. Like, there's nothing special about this game other than that.
I don't know. I think the
art style.
I think the puzzles are like hit a really good level, like where they're not like the solution is in front of you, and like I don't want to. The one in particular was so satisfying once you the kind of anti-gravity box.
Okay, yeah.
You have to, like, I can't say much more. I don't want to spoil it, but that for me, when I got that out, I was like, that's awesome. Like, that felt really good. So,
well, yeah, I agree.
I found them very satisfying and like a great difficulty level, like hitting the mark.
Well, I think the one major criticism I have, which knocks this down just a notch in my books, is I think the first half of the game is really awesome, and like especially early on, there's like these hints that you're in this world that's inhabited by other people. There's the spider, like when that spider comes out the first time, that's awesome. and you kind of like you're dealing with spiders for a little while, and then there's these other people that are like trying to like hurt you, hunt you down, set traps or whatever, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this mystery. Who are these people? And then they just kind of fade away, and you're just, after a while, you're just kind of, using boxes with magnets and stuff to solve puzzles, and it totally
it's a little
lost
all over the place. But I completely agree with that. I was, and maybe the problem was I had read some reviews a bit or some impressions, and those kind of suggested to me that there was like a crazy payoff at the end. Like it ends abruptly, but the ending was awesome. And I can't say I totally agree with that. Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, the way, like, there was no build up on the gameplay side to denote that, hey, I'm almost at the end of this game, and wow, this is the finale. It's just all of a sudden, boom, you're at the end, and now we're going to show you this cool ending, which to me kind of didn't really work. I did like the fact that it was a vague ending. Like, that's cool. Like, I haven't seen very many video games that are kind of abstract like that, and I guess this is what I mean by it being like an art house game. Like, you don't really know what it's about, and something happens and you're like, what did that mean? And then it just ends, and that's cool. But as far as, like I was saying, the gameplay, and the story, even if there is a story to this game, kind of need to mesh a little better for this to be a total masterpiece in my book.
I think we're on the same page, Dwyer.
All right, so are we going to bring the same rating system that Film Junk uses into this?
I don't see why not. I think we should.
All right, well, it is a little weird in the world of video games to go with a 4-star rating system, but let's do it.
That's what we are.
A little weird?
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm going to give it 3.5. What are you going to say?
Did you look at my paper here, buddy?
I didn't, but...
Yeah, I'm going to give it 3.5, too.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth a download. And I mean,
now here we were talking I buy a lot of stuff, but the value question for this game is, for someone who doesn't have a lot of money, I think is debatable.
It is like a 4 or 5 hour game.
Yeah, less, I think.
Yeah.
Like if you could play it at a friend's house, I might suggest that. I would like to support the studio too, but check it out. But if you don't got a lot of coin,
it doesn't bother me that much, because I mean, I totally understand certain people saying, I need to get X number of hours out of this game to make it worth my while. But for me, I don't really have a lot of time to play video games anyway.
I love short games.
So yeah, I'm all about the short games.
An awesome 8 to 10 hour game is as good as it gets for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but for some people who do want a lot of replay value and a lot of money, this probably isn't your game.
It's kind of interesting because looking at movies and there's always that question of pacing. Like, is a movie too long or is it too short? And with games, you hear people say, oh, that game's too short because it means it's not worth your money. But no one ever really talks about it in terms of pacing. And I mean, there's certainly games where I've been like, I thought I was near the end, and I'm like, yes, I'm getting to the end. And then it keeps going and going and going. And I don't like that. Like, sure, maybe I'm getting more for my money, but if it doesn't feel right for the game, then that sucks.
I totally agree. And I think that's something that's becoming better in games all the time. And particularly a game I'm going to talk about in a bit.
Why not right now?
Are we starting at number 5? Like I'm talking about my number 1 game of all time.
Oh. Sorry, okay.
Well, the suspense a bit? Jesus.
All right, well, we're going to move on to what we played this month.
Yeah.
This is probably going to be pretty packed for this episode.
I'll try to keep it brief. I've talked about a lot of it already, so.
Okay, well.
You go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
All right, well, let me bring up Heavy Rain, because this is the other game that I've kind of played through to completion over the past month.
We've talked about it quite a bit on the Film Junk podcast.
Well, we've talked about it in the sense of are video games art?
Yeah.
And this being a game that a lot of people are holding up as, proof of that. Of course, at that point, I played the demo, hadn't had a chance to play through the whole game. So, played through the game, and I enjoyed it a lot. Like, I thought in terms of the visual style, the look of the game is awesome. I thought the music was amazing. The whole mood and atmosphere of the game is great. Story, pretty compelling, but, you know, it has some elements of cheese in there. Some of the voice acting, questionable.
Yeah, very questionable.
But the big thing that, you know, I keep coming back to with this game is, like, is it a game? Am I really doing much in this game other than just, you know, going from point to point and occasionally making a choice that's going to branch me down a new path? Like, I don't know. It's kind of... I kind of on Twitter put out something at some point saying that it was the best Dragon's Lair knockoff I had played. And yeah, that's a little... I was kind of joking, but in a way, agree. It's not that far off. Like, you can walk and move your character around wherever you want, but there's only so much you can do in a room, and all you're doing is hitting a button to trigger a cutscene of doing something.
Yeah.
And, you know, they do have, I guess, some fight sequences, which are basically these...
button tap, quick time
events like God of War or whatever. And they work pretty good. I mean, you're in the moment, and they feel like you're doing something. But the weird thing is, you know, you can fail a couple, and it's not really clear, like, oh, your character might get hurt a little bit, but then you kind of recover. But then you're always wondering, well, the way it ended, like, did I actually do that, or would that have happened anyway? And I think that's one of my big problems with this game is you never know when you're actually making a choice, with the exception of a couple points where it actually pops up a message saying, do you want to do this?
See, I kind of feel that's the thing I liked about it the most, is that... some rumblings going on there, that it was just event after event, and it was pretty, like, organic. Like, there were no clear, you know, redo this or you failed. It was like, whatever you do, that's what happened in this story. And I'm sure there's different ways you can do it, and they were really creative about the way that they brought all those choices and obviously scoped the game out for themselves. But that's what I love. Like, when it's done, it's done. Either you can fail, that's part of the game too. And, like, everyone's experience could be so different in this game, I think. And
that's true. I mean, you can fail, but you can't fail. You know what I mean?
Sorry.
Like,
yeah,
you can't die and restart. Like, you fail, but it just continues.
That's what I like, right? Like,
and it's interesting, but at the same time, it's unsatisfying, I find. Because what if I'm fighting this guy and I'm trying to beat him and I fail for whatever reason, I don't get a chance to redo that. I don't get a chance to correct that. I just have to go with the fact that I failed it. And it just feels oddly unsatisfying.
Fair enough. One thing I will mention in addition with this game is you were previously speaking about pacing.
Yes.
And that's one thing I thought was amazing with this game, the way they switched between the different characters. And each part of the story was like a really digestible chunk. Maybe not so much at the very beginning when it's the one character, but like it's all kind of 10-minute sequences. And just when you might be getting sick of a character, it switches to another one. And I always thought it was like, I was like, oh, I'll just do this next part, and which led to doing another part. And I never really got sick of anything in the game. It moved from character to character really well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting way of telling a story, and I liked it, but at the same time, I couldn't. After a while, it was hard to identify with a specific character. You know what I mean? Because you're controlling one character, and then it switches, and you're controlling another character, and then those two characters might actually interact at some point. But it's like whoever you're controlling at the time is who you're deciding what happens. It's kind of weird. I don't know. I'm not complaining about it exactly. I'm just saying that it definitely goes against a lot of what you're used to in a video game, which can be good, I guess. But yeah, I guess I see what you're saying in that when you play through, you've built this story, and in your head now, that's how that game went. But my question then is there any replay value for this? Like, do you want to ruin that? You've kind of seen that this is
because I want to get fucking trophies, and I will ruin it to fucking shit. but I still haven't. So that says something too. Probably because fuckers at work have been borrowing it for 3 straight years. And I've never got it back until 2 weeks ago.
I don't know who you're talking about.
But no, I'll probably replay it again with the trophy guide in hand.
I feel like it. Yeah,
gross.
I feel like it would be more fun if I knew when I was making the choices, or if at least there were kind of these hints that something I did earlier affected something later on. I never really they kind of do that with like the Knights of the Old Republic games and stuff like that. And sometimes it's kind of obvious, but at least you feel like you're changing the world in some way. And I never got that from Heavy Rain. But, I guess in terms of games coming close to reaching the feel of a movie, it's definitely pretty close.
Right. And I think another thing, they pushed a lot of the major, I think what could have been major game changers to the end of the game. So there's less branching of ideas, right? So,
yeah.
Like characters dying, that type of stuff only happens towards the end. And I think naturally you're inclined to have characters live, which is why I think a lot of people kind of see the same story. So
right. Yeah, and that's the other thing is that, I mean, you maybe there's choices you can make, but it's like the one choice is kind of the obvious one because that's how you would normally play a game. And then the other one is like, why would you
I think
want
it'd be
that
interesting
choice?
To see someone who is shit at video games play this game and like everyone dies and the killer wins.
Yeah, I guess. But I guess I don't even know. I mean, it is the kind of game that you would think would appeal to a non-gamer. Like Alicia watched me play most of it and was kind of into it. And there is a little bit of puzzle solving, not too much, but the thing is, like, I find the controls really clunky and frustrating.
Oh yeah, but the interface stuff was pretty cool. I will say that, like the scrubbing the crime scenes and like his virtual desk were kind of. And the thing I liked is I was worried that you're going to be going to this thing all the time and like that was going to be really annoying, but it wasn't. Like it was like brief. It wasn't. It was. I think it was only in the game twice, maybe 3 times.
Yeah, I was going to ask what you thought about that because so in the game, one of the characters is an FBI agent, and he has these crazy like VR glasses that he can basically gather evidence at a crime scene, and then he can go into this virtual world where he can sort through all these clues and kind of examine what he knows about the case. And it's like it's a pretty cool idea, and like the way the visuals of it are really cool. But it just felt so out of place for this game to me. Like this to me should have been like a kind of like a hard-boiled detective kind of noir kind of thing, and then they just because they can throw this weird sci-fi thing in there for no real reason. Like I guess it makes it a little easier to go through some of your clues.
But I guess the bigger part was like the actual collection aspect was kind of neat. Like you were finding the clues. Like
yeah, I guess they
how
needed
diligent you were.
They needed an easy way to be able to kind of.
But did you solve the murder with the detective? Because I didn't.
I'm trying to remember now.
And I think I found almost every clue but one, and I still couldn't piece it together. I thought I did, but
I think I did. Like,
but that's a reason too. Like, so like collecting the clues and being diligent at the crime scenes like has a payoff of like putting all the clues together. I guess, but
yeah,
it wasn't a major selling point of the game for me, but it was kind of a neat idea.
But at the same time, there's kind of like these cop-out things where it's like when you're controlling the one guy, if you fail some of those challenges, you don't get all the letters of the address. But then there's still ways you can guess it, and it's like...
Well, I didn't fail anything.
Oh, well, I did. Anyway, yeah, the only other thing I have to say is those kids were creepy as hell.
Oh, yeah. Daddy.
Daddy. Oh. Daddy, let's play. The scene where he there's a cool dream sequence where he's in the is it a train station? and there's like all these people around you and you're trying to get to your son.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty cool. I really like that.
I found the controls annoying in that, though, if I'm not...
But I think in that case,
was
it was supposed to be frustrating. Exactly. Although the nightclub scene has the same kind of thing.
And it's not.
And that was fucking annoying. Brutal. All right, what do you got?
That's it for you?
That's
all you played?
We'll go back and forth.
Oh, okay. Well, you finish off. No, are you sick of talking? All right. All right. I played through... I still haven't gotten all of the stars, but I got all of the main stars in Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Yeah, and?
It is amazing, as you would expect.
So
it's so much fun to play. I never get sick of playing. I did find it much easier than the first Galaxy.
Really?
For me personally, yeah. Like, a lot of people said it was hard, but my other friends that I've talked to definitely found it easier as well. So,
well, I liked the first one a lot. I didn't actually finish it, but I did think it was a pretty unique and just like an interesting way to adapt sort of the 2D platforming, but in a totally new way. But is this basically the same thing? Or
yeah, my top 5 might not reflect it, but I would say like this is one of close to just under the best game of this generation of consoles. Those 2 games, I would say. I would take them over anything else.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I noticed the other day on GameRankings.com.
Not a sponsor.
No. The all-time highest-rated games, number 1, Ocarina of Time, Zelda Ocarina of Time. But number 2 and number 3 are Mario Galaxy 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Both rated over 97%. So that's pretty impressive.
It's just they manage their game so well, like just like the size and the length of like one star and what they like uniquely put into each star. Like, you're not repeating stuff a lot. Like, everything's new all the time. And talking about pacing, like, that game's pacing is amazing. Like, every star is a digestible length. It's right in the wheelhouse. There's always some kind of new idea. The challenges are like definitely more challenging than the regular game, but not super frustrating. They were a bit in Galaxy 1, but not in Galaxy 2. And like, that to me is a game that has no story and is paced like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's so good. Like, I just want to keep playing constantly. Never get sick of playing. And I got to go back and find all the green stars, but
how would you compare it to like the new Super Mario Brothers game for the Wii?
I've only played the first 2 worlds in that. I picked it up like a million times better. Just the new Super Mario Brothers, I don't know. I got the new Super Mario Brothers for DS as well, and I never finished them. I don't know what it is. There's something about
the 2D gameplay just isn't as interesting.
I guess maybe it's the visuals in Galaxy help too. Like,
yeah,
all the little planets look so cool, and there's the new themes all the time. Like, there's just like the main worlds in those games that kind of every level's following the same kind of theme within the world. Where this game, like, one planet to the next, planets within like the smaller planets within things are just, it's just always something new and new mechanics they come up with, like, to use in one spot of the game. Like, they don't like build the mechanic necessarily that you use everywhere. It's like one cool thing, like the time that goes into it and the thought. And yeah, all the Yoshi stuff in 2 was really fun, and man, I'm super impressed as usual.
You're just a Nintendo fanboy.
Come off it.
All right. Well, I want to bring up Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, yeah.
Which I know a lot of people have been raving about this game, and I think justifiably so. I'm not usually into open world games as much as some people. I the GTA games, I've played most of them, but I haven't beat any of them. Because I find that after a while I just lose interest. I find there's too much traveling from point to point, the story just doesn't grab me like it should. There's too many. I find there's too many things to do, to the point where it's like I want to do it all, but I can't, and I just get frustrated because there's so much to do that I just give up. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. I haven't beaten Red Dead Redemption at all. Even with I just find everyone loves these games, and I just find the controls so clunky. Like walking and moving and shooting, like, do not feel natural to me at all. And
I mean, it could be that you just need to play it a little more.
Get immersed. I know, but it still annoys the shit out of me. Like,
I do find that I agree with a lot of people who are saying that riding a horse is not quite as fun as driving a car.
See, I'm the opposite. I just like that I'm worried less about streets and stuff in this game and taking, like, dead ends and stuff like that, right? Like, I feel like making a bad decision riding a horse doesn't make me backtrack as much, right? Like, I can still find ways around, and this whole open kind of land, I like that. Like, it's getting from place to place is more fun to me than in GTA. But like, I took the cab everywhere in GTA after a while.
Yeah. I guess I do find the same issues that I get tired of going from place to place after a while. But, you know, the whole kind of the theme of the game, like just the look of it, the feel of it is so absorbing. Like I'm way more interested in this world than I am in, you know, any of the Grand Theft Auto.
A Western world is totally cool, right? Like, and I think that's why people love this game so much is...
Yeah, and like it certainly draws from a lot of, you know, classic Western movies, but I feel like it's also in some strange way, like it is actually kind of giving me a history lesson, you know what I mean? Like there's some of the challenges where you actually have to like herd cattle and stuff, and it's kind of like something like that should be so boring, and like at first I'm kind of like, really, I have to do this? But then I do it and it's fun, and I'm kind of like, I get it. This is what cowboys do, you know? Like, it's kind of sounds stupid to say, but it actually really worked for me, some of those things. But, you know, all I can say is I played it really consistently for like a week, and then kind of got on to other stuff and haven't gone back.
I will definitely get back to it. It's just a matter of time.
Now, I haven't played any of the multiplayer either, and
that's what I did play.
You and Dax and everyone else are to blame because we had a little divide at work. Some people bought it for the PlayStation 3. Some of us bought it for the 360.
How are we to blame, bud?
Because none of the 360 people have been playing online.
We were that week it came out. We played every night. We posseed up.
I don't know about that.
I did.
You were too busy playing Gears of War 2.
Dax did. Milan did.
All
These
right.
guys are fucking animals. That's all they did. No,
anyway.
You were a week late to that party, bud.
Apparently.
Don't even start.
I'll go back to it, though. Okay. At least for the single-player stuff.
All right. I want to try those co-op missions, too. The extra DLC.
Yeah.
Should be cool. Everything else on my list is pretty brief. I'm just going to try to get through it. So...
Yep.
Other game has been Sin and Punishment Star Successor for the Nintendo Wii, which is awesome. Like, it has the perfect amount of like dodging, like a great dodge mechanic.
Well, this is a shooter,
it's like a shooter, like almost an on-rail shooter, but you're dodging and shooting at the same time. And I've always thought like the best, like first-person shooters aren't the best thing to translate to a Wii. Like, something where it's a constant stream of bullets, or like those old fire games, like with the fire hose, like a stream, like something where you're shooting with a stream is ideal for the Wii, right? Like accuracy isn't as important, but aiming is still fun. And this game does that perfectly. Like you don't have to be like pull the trigger and be accurate. Like you're kind of like pointing around the scene trying to kill as much as you can, and it's wicked. The bosses are awesome. They also got some cool like melee aspects to it too, and as like a shooter, like to me, it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite shooter I've ever played. Like,
interesting.
I
I find there is a lot of fun shooters on the Wii. I kind of like haven't been paying much attention to those, but when I get the chance to play them, they're a lot of fun.
This one's like just frantic enough that it walks the line. Like you can be shit at it and still have a good time playing it, and then there's still being good at it gives that extra satisfaction. Like the way they do the combo system, it definitely you want to get better, but it's not fun if you're not good. So I would highly recommend that game to the people out there.
Who developed that? Do you know?
Treasure. It's a Treasure game.
Nice.
The masters of the shooter. And as part of my PC gaming, I barely played Starcraft. I picked it up on Tuesday, but played the first 4 missions in that and
Starcraft 2.
Starcraft 2, yeah. I was playing a bit of Starcraft 1 as well because I had never played it before, and it was good, but I don't know. I'm ready to move into Starcraft 2.
And how are you in terms of RTS games? Are you a big
I'm
fan?
terrible. This is the first time I've gotten into them, and I've never really had a great gaming PC before, and I finally have a pretty decent one now, so I'm trying to get back into the history of PC gaming and check out some different stuff. But
like Doom?
There's a lot out there.
Doom
No,
and
I've
Quake?
played those. But like StarCraft 2 has a really cool... like the interface is awesome in between missions, and the missions themselves have like a great narrative structure, and like the detail is amazing. And there's another like top-down shooter kind of hidden in the game, Lost Viking, which is like a top-down shooter, which is really cool too. Like a nice little extra inside the game.
Is that like a reference to that game, the Lost Vikings?
I know it might be. I don't know.
Did Blizzard do that game?
I'm not sure. I know it was published by Interplay.
Let me look this up. I used to love that game.
Yeah. But while you do that, I will just say a few more things.
Yeah, it was developed by Blizzard.
Shit.
There you go.
It's all coming around. But yeah, I just have so much respect for Blizzard now. Like, I'd never been that into them, but...
They make amazing games. The problem is they make them in genres I'm just not that interested in.
Me too. And I'm starting to become more of an RTS guy and starting to become more of an RPG guy, and I'm really starting to appreciate them now. And their art, I love their art and interfaces. Like, it's enough for me. Like, I don't get lost in the gameplay, but I just like looking at those games while I'm playing them.
I still say I would absolutely love to see a feature-length animated movie made by the guys at Blizzard.
Oh,
like
the opening cinematics are
insane.
Yeah, so good. They
are doing a World of Warcraft movie.
If they did it CG directed by Raimi,
they should.
So good. And sorry, I briefly went back into the world of Viva Pinata for PC, and nice. I love Viva Pinata. I love Rare, and I love like their character design as well, and like their artwork. And Viva Pinata on PC is awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah, like it's like the pointing and clicking makes the game a lot more fun and fast, and I've been enjoying that. I haven't played it much though, but I'm looking forward to going through that again, and then hopefully playing the sequel for Xbox, which I started playing and never really got into. And briefly been playing Picross 3D for Nintendo DS.
Nice.
I was a big fan of the first Picross, and so far the Picross 3D has yet to disappoint. And haven't played much, but it's fun. Good time killer, especially when you're watching like TV shows and stuff like that. It's a good.
When you're watching TV shows you don't want to be watching.
Well, no, but like if I want to watch like I'm watching Curb or something, and I've seen it, but I still kind of want to pay attention. But
gotcha.
It's perfect. Perfect for those situations.
Yep.
And finally, which we've talked about, was Donkey Kong Country. I did not mention, though, that I got 101%, which I had never done before in my life, which was...
That's pretty huge.
Yeah, and then I started Donkey Kong Country 2. And I remember when that came out on Super Nintendo, it was like really... I think the next cycle had began. Like, there was obviously already Saturn, and I think PlayStation 1 or... PlayStation 1 had come out.
Oh, okay. But not N64.
Yeah, and I never really got... And you know what? Playing it, I'm still not quite as into it. Like, it still doesn't have the same impact that Donkey Kong Country 1 had, but
yeah,
it's kind of fun. I hope to get through that in 3 in the near future.
So you're playing that on Virtual Console?
Correct.
Both? 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's it for me.
Okay. A couple things I'll mention then. I've been playing also a bit of Transformers War for Cybertron, which I'm hoping to still team up with you a little bit and do some co-op. But, this game got great reviews, which I would have had no interest in it, except the reviews were so good. I was like, oh, maybe I'll take a look. And it was cheap.
Yeah, the one day. I love those one-day sales.
Yeah, that always gets me. But, I mean, I don't quite agree with the high scores it's been getting from what I've seen. I got to be honest. I mean, I've only played probably the first 2 or 3 levels in the Decepticon campaign. So it's not, I think a lot of the high scores are from the multiplayer and all that kind of stuff, and I haven't even touched that. But it is probably the best Transformers game I've played, and I've played most of the ones that have come out over the years, and they've all been pretty terrible. Starting with there was one for the NES. Well, there's one on the Commodore 64, which I never understood what the hell you're supposed to do in it.
You're such a Commodore 64 fanboy.
There's one on the NES that I think was like a Japanese import, and it is probably the hardest game I've ever played in my life. Like, you will die within 2 seconds no matter what you do. Then I think, what else was there? I don't remember if I think there may have been like a Beast Wars game or something for the PlayStation 1 and the PC. Anyway, there was one for the PlayStation 2 that came out a couple years back that was decent. But this is good. My big complaint, one of the big complaints I have, why the hell can nobody make a Transformers game with the characters that I know from the 80s? Like, I understand there were some Transformers the movie games, and that's fine. You can base those on the look of the characters in the movie. This has nothing to do with that, and the characters don't look anything like the Transformers do in the movie. They don't look anything like they do in any of the new animated series that I'm aware of, and they don't look anything like the ones from the original. Like, they just come up with their own weird-ass designs, so you don't really know who these characters are. I want the iconic look of the Transformers.
It's fucking artists, man. They all think they can do better.
And I guess the other thing is it's set on Cybertron, so you basically, from the levels I've seen so far, it's just a lot of kind of random circuitry and shit everywhere, and it kind of gets boring after a while. There was one cool thing in the first level where you're kind of jumping on these platforms, and in the background you just see space, and that was kind of cool. But, I mean, in terms of the shooter mechanics, it's pretty solid. I don't know.
Yeah,
just didn't seem like anything special to me.
I'm one of those weirdos. Like, I'm not a huge Transformers fan.
Yeah.
I've never really been that into it. And I did play the movie game, the first movie game, and it was so bad.
Yeah.
But I same as you. I'm looking, the reviews and the price got me, and just haven't had time to fire it up yet. One of these days.
Some of the voice acting is so terrible. Like, they're trying to sound like Starscream or something, and it's just so annoying. But
fucking idiots.
But the other thing that I always find interesting, like with Transformers games, you think the big thing is transforming, but there's never any good reason to do it. You know what I mean? Like, if you can run around as a robot with a gun and shoot everything, why do you need to transform into a car and drive along the ground? Like, I guess just because it's cool.
Do it faster.
I guess you can maybe drive a little faster, but there's never any good reason to do it.
Can you shoot while you're driving, though? I'm pretty sure you can, right?
Yeah, you can.
Why would you walk, then? I think I'm the opposite.
Well, you have, like, different weapon sets for each one, I guess. But, yeah, not really a good reason to do it as far as I can tell, but maybe there will be in later levels. I don't know. So, couple other quick things I will mention here. Picked up a Nintendo DSi a couple months ago, and one of the reasons is because I wanted to get into the DSiWare. I wanted to be able to download some of these little games that they've been coming out with. And so far, I have to say, I'm not that impressed with the DSiWare games. They're usually very small, very limited games. They're nowhere near the complexity of like Xbox Live Arcade games or even anything you download for like your iPhone or something. And it sucks because the one thing I always think when it comes to like a lot of the Xbox Live Arcade games that are coming out is like, I wish I could play this in a portable format. Like, I love old school kind of 8-bit style games, but I wish I always want them in a portable format because they just kind of seem to work that way. And the DSiWare games just haven't really been doing it for me. The one game I will recommend that I've been enjoying is called Trajectile. It's kind of like Bubble Bobble, Puzzle Bobble meets Breakout, if that makes any sense. So you've kind of got like these grids with like blocks, and you have these missiles that you can shoot. So you basically can aim the angle you want to shoot them at, and you shoot the missile. And you have different kinds of missiles. Like some can go through this many blocks, and some can bounce a lot. And you basically just have to try and get all the flashing blocks with like 5 missiles or something.
Sounds pretty good.
It's pretty addictive, and it's pretty fun. And it's like the art style is very minimal and kind of retro looking, but I dig it. So that's one recommendation.
Have you ever checked out Shatter on the PSN?
I haven't.
That's
no.
like I guess
like a breakout kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's like really fast paced. Like it's pretty awesome. Definitely worth a look.
Might have to check that out.
Cool soundtrack too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess the only other thing I'll mention, like I've been playing. I downloaded a few things on the iPhone or iPod Touch that I haven't really had a chance to look at yet. One is that new Castlevania puzzle game that just came out. Probably I'll talk about that on the next episode. But I've been playing Puzzle Quest a lot on the iPod Touch, and I know this is kind of old news. This game's been out forever, but Part 2 just came out. And I really am looking forward to it. The one thing is I'm going to wait, I think, till it comes out for the iPod, because it's only out for Xbox Live Arcade right now. And I think PC maybe, or no, DS.
No achievements?
No, I'm not as concerned about that as you are. But this is the thing.
I figure if you're going to play it, you might as well get some achievements.
This game is perfect for playing on the go. That's the thing. Like I know a lot of people will play it on Xbox Live Arcade, but I'd much prefer to play it on a portable system. And I think Puzzle Quest has had a huge impact. Like I've been seeing so many games, like the whole idea of taking a puzzle game and mixing it with an RPG. There's so many games coming out now where they take 2 genres and mash them up. Like that's kind of like the new thing. And there's some interesting stuff out there. Like
that's why I was saying that about XCOM. I think they might.
Yeah, they might have like strategy mixed with
a huge strategic
FPS
element. Yeah, with an FPS.
Well, there's one game for the DSiWare that's called Alpha Bounce, and it's kind of like Arkanoid, but with an RPG element where you like power up and get stuff for your ship and stuff. And there's also that Puzzling Adventures of Henry Hatsworth or something it's called.
Yeah, it's a puzzle game on the bottom.
A puzzle game at the bottom, platformer at the top. Like, there's a lot of stuff like that, and it's pretty interesting. So, anyway, if you haven't played the first Puzzle Quest, definitely check that out. And Part 2 is out soon for the iPod, I think. So,
cool.
All right, so I guess we're going to quickly do a couple mailbag questions.
Let's do it.
And we did have a few that people had left on the forum for us, and we're not going to get to all of them right now, but we're going to do 2. We're going to start with one from Fat Baloney.
Nice.
So he kind of wanted a background on how we got into gaming, which we kind of already talked about, I guess, at the beginning of the show. But he also wanted to know our favorite games. So we thought we'd each do our top 5
top 5
all-time games, which is tough, but...
Yeah, it might change tomorrow, but this is what I came up with today.
Yeah.
You want to go first? Number 5?
Go ahead.
Number 5, Banjo-Kazooie. That's right, Banjo-Kazooie. I can sense the haters out there already. I love Rare. I love Nintendo 64, and I think Banjo-Kazooie was my favorite Nintendo 64 game. And I've since replayed it on Xbox Live, and I still love it. What
about Conker's Bad Fur Day?
I also love Conker's Bad Fur Day, but Banjo-Kazooie kind of set the stage for that. And it was the first non-Mario game that took what Mario had and kind of expanded upon it. It had some kind of Metroid-ish elements, like unlocking new powers and revisiting levels, but
right.
I just love the characters and the levels and I don't know, the quirkiness, I suppose.
Okay.
It's got everything I need. What can I say? I love Banjo-Kazooie.
All right, well, I don't know if these are really... I mean, I guess these are in order, but they are kind of interchangeable.
Yeah, exactly.
But my number 5 is Super Mario Kart. For my money, best multiplayer game ever made. And I mean, there's been tons of knockoffs and tons of sequels. For me, nothing has ever been as good as that original Super Nintendo version.
And like even in the new Mario Kart Wii, I don't know if you played it at all, but
yeah,
just like when they redid old Super Mario Kart levels, it's amazing. Like
yeah, those levels are awesome. Like the way they built in some of the shortcuts and things, and it was just one of those games that you could sit back and you could play with anyone. But if you got really good at it, there were lots of little things, that's just subtle things you can do in it, and yeah, just awesome. And
I even something like the map at the bottom where you see like the characters driving around like in these things.
Yeah,
I love that. Like that looks amazing still to me. Like.
And I don't know, they may have been the first game to have a ghost racer so that you could race against.
Oh yeah, possibly
your own times or whatever.
Yeah, awesome game.
All right, what's your number 4?
Metal Gear Solid 4.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I haven't played this yet.
It is like I admit sometimes the cutscenes get a little drawn out, but they are still even technically so impressive. Like this is one game technically that I've never seen anything better, I don't think. Like, and just the way they have so many approaches to gameplay, so many retro throwback things, so many little things in the game. Like they've taken concepts that have been in the Metal Gear series, or they've tried to introduce like camouflage and kind of perfected them. And I don't know, nothing really felt too clunky in this game for me at all. Like if this is the game over all others I would want them to do like a trophy patch for. Like I would love more motivation to play through this games like multiple times. And I'm hoping like even a new version of it comes out patched with achievements, trophies, and I would play it. I would try to get everything in the game. Like I love playing this game. I know you would. And I'm not as bad as I used to be for achievement and trophy whoring, but for a good game, I like doing it all, and this is a game I...
So no Metal Gear 1 on your list, then?
Like, solid one?
Yeah. Because, I mean, I think that would be... It's not on my list either. It would probably be top 10 or 15, maybe. But...
I debated between that and this.
Okay.
And I will not tell you why I picked this.
Okay.
Out of fear of spoiler alerts.
Okay. Well, I mean, the only reason I probably wouldn't put Metal Gear Solid on my list, I didn't play it when it first came out. And I think if I had played it then, it would have probably blown my mind and would have probably still been one of my favorite games of all time. But I played it many years later, and it was still a good game. But I just think, the impact had kind of passed a bit by then. So, okay. My number 4 is Metroid Prime.
Good game.
Maybe on your list, I'm getting the sense. Yeah, I mean, I love all the Metroid games, and the idea that they turned it into a first-person shooter without being a first-person shooter is pretty awesome. Like, it has this feel that is so different from a shooter.
And to me, that's why it's on my list. It's number 2 on my list. And I don't think any game has made a transition from 2D to 3D and captured the essence of that game better than Metroid Prime. Like, it is so good at like the atmosphere and
the music. Is amazing.
It's just, I can't even believe, like when they said they were making Metroid 3D, and I was like, I don't know. Even watching the videos and seeing screenshots, I'm like, I don't know what this. And it's just, though I remember playing that game, and when I was living with the guys in my house, our heads were exploding playing that game. And another thing that was amazing about that was like the menus. I remember the menus being so awesome at the time that it came out, with all like the virus shit before like every movie did it in their opening credits and stuff. Like, the best, amazing presentation. Like the map was so accessible for like a 3D map. That was like the best 3D map I'd ever seen. And I don't know. I've been playing through it again recently and loving every second.
I think for me, the moment that really got me, that always sticks with me, is when you're kind of in I think there's like the underwater ship or whatever, and you're kind of like climbing up those ledges, and they're kind of like on these weird angles and stuff, and the music in that and everything, and you're underwater. Like, it just had this awesome atmosphere, and yeah, I just always remember that level as being amazing.
And again, that game is a game that the whole design of it, like, its pacing is insane. Like, the way you upgrade, you're always kind of getting something new. You can revisit places, see new things. Like,
yeah, so addictive. I'm a big fan of that style of.
Yeah, any game like that, like Symphony of the Night, obviously, and all those Castlevania games, and
yeah,
for this game to do that in 3D, I don't even think any game has done that type of game in 3D as well as that. I can't think of.
Yeah. Still
to this day, anything that's come close to that.
So what's your number 4?
We did my number 4. We're on to my number 3. Super Mario World for Super Nintendo.
Interesting.
And that's why I was saying, like, I think ultimately Galaxy is probably a better game. But Super Mario World was the one game. Like, I didn't have a Super Nintendo when it came out. I didn't get it till Donkey Kong Country came out. But that was the game. Like, if I went to my friend's house that had a Super Nintendo, we were playing Super Mario World. And I still remember, like, all the secrets with the keys. And even, like, just the way the fucking key. If you found a keyhole, it would, like, and, like, that is, like, just, it, with such a limited, like, graphical engine. Like, it's so creative and so awesome. And, like, the Star World, I remember being, like, so challenging, and I loved it. And even Bowser, like, that was the beginning of the Super Nintendo, like, when he would fly into the screen super pixelated, was still awesome. Like, I've been trying to get back into that too. I've been playing it a bit, and it's really challenging too. Like, that's not a easy game, especially to do everything. So
yeah. Solid game.
Not quite as good as Galaxy, I would say overall, but for sentimental value, it's my number 3.
What about Mario 64 though?
I know. I could put all 5 Mario games on my top 5 list, but
I
tried to limit one from each franchise, but
all right.
I could.
Yeah, I hear you.
Make a case for all of them.
All right. Well, my number 3 is Resident Evil 4. And
I thought that was your number 1.
No.
You know, I might have to change my list.
But
there was a game that was supposed to be on here that didn't make it, and I don't know how.
Uh-oh.
We'll talk about an honorable mentions, but I can't believe I fucking was supposed to have it up here. Sorry.
All right, well, Resident Evil 4. I was never a big fan of the first 3 Resident Evil games. I mean, I had played 1 a bit, and it certainly made an impression in terms of the atmosphere and stuff, but the controls just frustrated the hell out of me. I couldn't really get into them. Part 4 totally changed that. I mean, they changed the style without losing the horror element. I mean, it's still a super creepy game. I remember I don't know. I think as you go on in the game, it becomes a little bit more linear, but I remember there being some interesting stuff early on, like when you're wandering through that village, you can go into that house and that guy will come at you with the chainsaw and you kind of get locked in. And like, it just seemed like a totally unique moment to me at the time when it happened. And I was just like blown away by it and like pretty freaked out too. I mean, this chainsaw guy was pretty badass.
Yeah,
so.
I was playing, I beat it, or I think I almost beat it on the Wii again recently. And it's like such a good game. And as control schemes come out, like using the Wii remote to shoot and stuff, it's so much more immersive than it used to be too. So
yeah,
because that was the one thing that always kind of got me with Resident Evil is kind of the 3D aiming within 2D space. I never really felt like I could aim exactly where I wanted, like I can with other shooters.
See, I like that though because it added to the tension.
Yeah, I guess, but I still, especially in the first ones, had like at least they added the laser sight in 4 that made it a bit easier.
Oh, well, yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to replaying 5 if I get the PlayStation Move.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Co-op especially, because that was pretty good.
That was good.
And I was surprised, like, how playing 5, it really is. So everyone was saying it's lost like the horror elements and stuff like that from 4, but the structure is very similar to 4. Like the 1-1, 1-2, like it is still kind of linear. Like 1 is pretty linear, 4 is pretty linear after replaying it, and
yeah,
it retained a lot more than I thought it did when I was playing 5 the first time, having not played 4 for quite some time.
Right.
2 was Metroid Prime for me.
Okay. My number 2, which may be your number 1, I don't know.
I think it is.
Uncharted 2.
Yep. That's my number 1.
Nice.
I think that's going to cause a frenzy out there.
Well, it's weird because with games, I think you always, like, you know, you talk about your top 10 movies or whatever, and you probably have like a top 10 that you've kind of established at some point, and it's not going to change very much over the years, right? With games, it's a little different because every new generation brings so much more immersion, and games are just improving all the time. So you're kind of always bringing in new games, and like this game just came out like last year, so it's a little weird for me to be like, yeah, that's up there. But I mean, you were raving about the first Uncharted game for a long time.
I could have put the first one on this list too. Like,
yeah, and I
played through that guy. This is before achievements and trophies,
right?
Like I played through that game 4 times, and then I played through it 4 times again once they did a trophy patch for it. Like I do not get sick of that game, ever. And
yeah, it's just like the gameplay is amazing, like the gunfights and stuff, the AI, so fun to just go back and forth and fight the enemies, but the graphics are incredible, the environments are amazing. The voice acting, probably the best I've seen in any video game. The story is compelling, just everything about it.
The locations are always switching up, like I'm never getting bored with anything, and this was what I was gonna, like, the pacing in this game is the best pacing of any game ever. When the second one came out, I came home that night and I put it in, and I played till 5 in the morning, and I wanted to keep playing. And the second I got home the next day, I played till I beat it. And I haven't done that with a game previous to that one, like probably in 10 or 12 years. Like I can't remember the last time I've played through a game that much. Like these days I can put down a game pretty easily.
Yeah, right? I don't finish a lot of games, and
this game I could not stop. And
yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think it's kind of personal preference too. Like the way the aiming is set up, like it's really like 1-to-1, extremely accurate. Like there's not it does have some hitches, like where you can shoot around corners a bit and stuff, but for the most part, the cover system is extremely accessible. I'm never frustrated with controls. The puzzles are kind of right in the wheelhouse too for that type of game.
Yeah.
The music's amazing.
There's just like, especially going from 1 to 2, there's so much like sort of interesting special case things that'll happen in one instance and never again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like that's the kind of stuff that really impresses me.
And yeah, for me, like as good as 1 was, I can't believe how much further 2 took it. And even the multiplayer is amazing. Like that, I don't play a lot of multiplayer, and I don't know if it's just because I love the mechanics or they just feel right to me, but I love the multiplayer in that. And I will say this about Sony, and I've talked about it a lot. They tend to kind of rip off ideas and then kind of perfect them. Like Resistance is another game I really like, and it's kind of a Halo ripoff. Like there's no bones about it, but they kind of make everything a little tighter, and like they're really good at taking concepts other people have established and creating a new universe around them and kind of making everything feel as good as possible. And Uncharted 2, like it's pretty much taking like a cover shooting mechanic, pretty much like Gears of War at the time, and some platforming like a ton of games, particularly Tomb Raider, combining them. But they just, as much as I can see that they're doing that, it's still, they perfect it. They just put it together in a perfect package.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So anyway, I guess my number one, which is going to be one that probably, especially compared to my number two was, this is pretty ridiculous to even compare the two, but I'm one for appreciating the history of gaming, and this is definitely a sentimental favorite for me. Number one is Maniac Mansion.
Whoa.
Yep.
So that box on your desk at work ain't no joke.
It's not.
That's number one.
Yeah, played it on the Commodore 64, then played it on the NES many years later. Which, interestingly enough, Nintendo sanitized that game quite a bit.
Wasn't it the NES it was on?
Yeah, didn't I say that?
I think you said SNES.
Oh,
whatever.
NES.
Sorry, I mean to be a dickhead.
But yeah, so I mean, I there was a time when the whole point-and-click adventure thing was a huge deal. Like, these were like the best-selling games at the time and stuff, and then they kind of died out, and I can understand why, but I still think that these kinds of games offer something that you don't get nowadays. You know, there's ways of interacting with the world. There's interesting puzzles and interesting characters, and a lot of them, especially Maniac Mansion, have a sense of humor, which very few games nowadays have a sense of humor, which I think is a problem.
Have you tried Zack and Wiki?
Yep.
For the Wii?
Yeah. I like it. I kind of didn't really get that far in it, but...
Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, I just... Maniac Mansion was the first time I played a game where I was kind of like really pulled into the story. It had multiple endings, multiple characters. You can play through the game in a lot of different ways. And yeah, Day of the Tentacle, the sequel, is also amazing.
I've never played it. What do you think about that?
You should check it out.
Would you lend me that box at work? Maybe I'll install it. Is it on floppies, though?
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't got no floppies.
But it's funny, too, because, like, I just, you know, especially, like, younger people who, you know, weren't around in that era, to kind of go back and play that game, they probably just would get so bored after 5 minutes. But I was so just absolutely absorbed by this game when I was a kid. So it's pretty awesome.
I like it.
Yep. All right. So we have one other mailbag question we're going to quickly talk about. This one comes from Bulkiest Toaster. And he wanted to know if there were any games that we liked that critics hated or that generally didn't get good reviews. You got a few?
I got a few. Number one for me, hands down, is Sewer Shark for Sega CD. This was the beginning of the full motion video games.
I thought you were going to say Night Trap.
Oh, I hate Night Trap. Fucking shit. It's all about Sewer Shark. And I don't know what it is. Like, the acting is really good in it. The gameplay's retarded. But that was another game where we played it and we had no idea what we were supposed to do. Like 3, 6, 9er and all. Like, they're just shouting out these numbers. Like, you know what? What are we supposed to do? And when I finally figured out how to play Sewer Shark and beat it, it's like one of the most satisfying things in the world. So it will always have a special place in my heart. And a couple other, like, Jaws is one that comes to mind for NES.
Yeah?
Like, it's shit. But I remember that was like the first discount game. Like, we couldn't, like, it was like a Canadian Tire flyer, and it was, oh my God, they got $10 Nintendo games. And it was Jaws, and we bought it, and it was, what the fuck are you doing in this game? You just run back and forth and shoot fish. And I don't know, it still holds a special place in my heart. And we beat it recently. I think we had to use the Game Genie. But I was at a friend of mine's house, and we're like, yeah. He looked at me like, you want to beat Jaws, man? Like, let's do it. And we beat Jaws. I had never seen it done before. And finally, also for the NES, this is the only one, Thrilla's Surfari, which is a guerrilla skateboarding game where you jump through levels, which is extremely difficult and annoying, but it I love it. You should Thrilla's Surf if you're trying to spell it. Surfari.
Thrilla's Surfari.
Surfari. So check it out. There's some videos on YouTube. You can kind of get the full Surfari experience from those.
All right. Well, I don't have too many games that I can think of, because as we were discussing before the show, video game reviews are usually actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's the one thing that you can trust a review pretty much. Like movies, there's still that subjective element, but the things that tend to bring games down are like completely dysfunctional controls and
terrible graphics.
Yeah, not even that, but just like, well, yeah, that and like total incomprehensible ideas and like it's just sloppy, or they probably ran out of time and money. And I think most people making games have good ideas and the passion's there. It's just more comes down to time and resources. So, if a review's good, that means they probably had the time and the talent to get it to where it needed to be. So I generally trust video game reviews more than anything. So there's very few that fall out of that. That category.
One thing I'll throw out as probably one that nobody's played, but okay. So do you remember the game Spy vs. Spy, based on the Mad Magazine characters?
That was for Nintendo as well, right?
Yeah, and Commodore 64. But they did a remake of that for the Xbox, I believe. It may have been also for PlayStation 2. But I remember picking that up, trying to find it. It was really hard to find. And it got terrible reviews, got totally killed by the critics. And, I mean, it looked like a bad game. Like, it was bad. But as far as it recreating the multiplayer experience of that original Spy vs. Spy game, I thought it was actually kind of fun.
Yeah, one other one. Fusion Frenzy, the first one for Xbox.
Nice. Yeah, I like that game.
It got panned pretty bad, and we had it up in school, and we used to play it quite a bit. It was pretty good.
Yeah, that was kind of back when they were just kind of, the whole idea of having like a mini game, compilation of mini games was just kind of new and fresh. And yeah, it was. I remember that game being pretty fun, actually. All right, so thanks for the emails or forum questions, as it were. Did you want to do honorable mentions for the top fives?
No, I think No,
kind of
I'm sure they'll. I'm sure they'll come up in other.
There's lots of games.
There's too many games to talk about.
Yeah,
don't want to spoil them all today.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should probably wrap this up, but I thought we could talk just briefly about what's out, what's coming out, and maybe what we're planning on doing for the next episode. So, I guess StarCraft 2 is probably the big release that's just came out. I'm going to try and play it, even though I'm not a big RTS guy. I'm going to try and play it a bit because you gave me one of your guest passes. So probably we'll talk a little more about that on the next episode if we have time. But we're kind of in the middle of the summer doldrums, which is weird because I think they need to release more blockbuster games in the summer because I hate that they're all packed in at the end of the year, and I understand why, but there's no reason why you can't put out a solid game in the summer and still sell a lot.
They're starting to get better though. Like Mario came out in May, and like Sony released a lot of big titles in March, like God of War 3 and even last year. So I think they're starting to realize releasing a good game anytime is going to generate sales. Like, if you know it's a good game, you're better to avoid the holiday competition, I think. Because I think in the case of games like Mario and other things, those games are still going to be popular. If you release them between March and May and stuff, they're still going to be popular at Christmas time.
Yeah.
And I think it's the shit games that try to get lost in the holiday shuffle when people will buy anything, and parents that don't know anything about games are just buying whatever.
Yeah. So a couple other games that are out right now, Crackdown 2 and Singularity. Have you heard anything about these?
I wouldn't mind checking out both, but time is not looking good for them.
Yeah. Lego Harry Potter.
No, thank you. Although I do like the Lego games, I'm a little sick of them. But if I was a little more into the Harry Potter franchise, I might check it out. But it's not one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Puzzle Agent is a new game from Telltale Games, kind of a puzzle game. It's out for the PC, I think, on Steam right now, but I might check it out when it comes out for the iPhone or iPod Touch. Let's see what else. There's a bunch of Xbox Live Arcade games coming out.
Absolutely.
Summer of Arcade, they're calling it. So Limbo was the first of those.
Hydro Thunder was this week.
Right. And then
reviews are not too hot for that one.
No?
No.
And then what's after that? Is that the
Castlevania next week? Yeah.
Castlevania Harmony of Despair. That's what it's called.
Okay.
And definitely looking forward to that one because it's kind of supposed to be like a Symphony of the Night kind of 2D one, but with multiplayer added.
Yep.
So pretty psyched for that, actually. And Madden 11 comes out this month.
Yeah, I'm getting a little. I'll probably end up getting it, though. That's the worst part. I always say I'm not going to get it, and then I do.
I don't play Madden games. I was all excited about the new Tecmo Bowl game, but then I still haven't.
It just gets me excited for football season.
Yeah,
like that's the best thing about it.
Kane and Lynch 2, Mafia 2, and Metroid Other M at the end of August, which we're definitely psyched for. So yeah, we're talking about if we do this show once a month, it'll probably come out the last week of every month. So next month, we're talking about doing Alan Wake as the featured review.
And Castlevania as the small release.
Yeah, Castlevania Harmony of Despair. And then definitely the month after that will be a big Metroid special, we're thinking.
Yeah, a huge Metroid retrospective. I'm going to play through every Metroid that isn't like a mobile Metroid. I'm going to play through Metroid, Super Metroid, all 3 primes. I may try to get to...
You should try and play Metroid 2.
Oh.
Try and get like the Super Game Boy or something and plug that in, because that is one of my favorite Metroid games.
Really?
Yeah. It's amazing.
Interesting.
Oh,
you just blew my... I didn't even...
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Fuck. All right. Yeah, I'll play that too. And then I might get into some of the portable ones, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. Although I will say this, people were not saying too much about Other M at E3 and in recent previews.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about it, but I think the idea of mixing the 2D with the 3D is interesting, because I've been dying for another 2D Metroid game, so if they can combine
I love
the two.
that too, and even they have like a few in-between cams too, where it's like the Resident Evil cam almost, like a third person, like going down small corridors and stuff. So I don't know. I think if it was really good, people would be talking about it, and
it's a good point.
No one's talking about it, and it got pushed back a bit too. So
either way, we'll definitely have a review of that.
Fucking dick punch if that game sucked.
Now the other thing is Halo Reach comes out like mid-September.
Yeah, well, we're thinking the episode after that. Right?
Yeah, but that's going to be like pretty late by the time that comes out. So I don't know if we could combine Metroid and Halo. That's a lot of game playing to do. But
nuts.
Just throwing it out there. Just planning ahead.
Okay.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. This may be the only episode we ever record right now. So
it could very well be.
So, did you have something else you wanted to mention in terms of trying to play online? Some setting up?
Yeah, we didn't get it set up. I was hoping we could set up unique gamer tags for this podcast.
And then we could try and play with some listeners on.
Yeah, we'd have like a dedicated PSN game, or we would take suggestions for, like, this month we're gonna try to play this, and if you got time or you're a fan of the podcast, we all kind of hook up and play together.
Yeah, I like the idea for sure. So, but I mean, if we get it set up, we can always just post it in the forum or something.
And Halo would probably be a good one for that too. And
yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, that's about it for the first episode of Game Junk.
I'm spent, man. I'm exhausted.
That was pretty epic.
Holy,
but it was good. It was good.
Oh, sorry, balls are getting sticky.
If you want to email us any questions for the next episode, you can always reach us at filmjunk@gmail.com.
I think we're trying to push interaction with this one, so
yeah, definitely.
Don't be shy.
Comments, criticism, let us know. We may have some guests on in the future. We're not quite sure yet how that's going to work. But
we got a few industry connections we might be able to
pull
leverage.
Some strings. Yeah. All right, so that's about it. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time right here on Game Junk.
I don't know, man. I'm fucking freaking out over here.